Welcome to the March 19th edition of the Crowns Way video newsletter. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, with the managing partner of Crowns Way Racing, Tony Rollo. Tony, lots of stuff that have happened this past weekend. Of course, we saw a bunch of people out at the NHC. So if we did see you, thank you so much for reaching out. Appreciate it. Of course, two of our Crowns Way partners did very, very well that weekend, headed by Dan Piazza and Terry Frank, both finishing in the top 10 of the NHC and taking home a really nice chunk of change that we're really, of course, excited, and congratulations to both of them. But Tony, a couple of reminders for people. Of course, T-Lore is a fantastic service that we've ended up utilizing not only with entry tracking, workout tracking. Tony's uploaded a bunch of pictures and videos, as I'm sure you guys have seen if you're in there. But Tony, just as a reminder for our partners out there, how do they access their T-Lore if they haven't already?
Yeah, if they haven't signed in yet, your username and password will be your name in all capital letters. At last check, I think probably about a third of our partners have signed in. So we need to get those numbers up. But yeah, so username, password, all caps, and I'll keep updating that as much as possible whenever we have new news. Like Second City Saint just got entered. So I got the notification from T-Lore before I saw that she was entered, so you'll be notified as soon as I am, as far as most of this stuff. So,
see, and that was an hour ago. I just got my entry for Second City Saint. This might be the Gen Z and me talking, but it's nice. It's really nice considering how much I have my phone in my hand that I can just see them and instantly know when they're entered, when they worked out. New videos are uploaded. There was a video person out at Turfway, as Tony was talking to me before the show. He uploaded pictures of Otago and others. There's a workout video that was just posted as well. Lots of good information. Would highly recommend you guys signing up. Again, completely free for you guys as a service for being a partner with Crowns Way. And as Tony said, username, password is your first and last name, all capital letters for both username and password. So super easy to get in and take a look at it. But as always, if you have any questions, email Tony on the email actually at the bottom of the screen right now, Anthony Rollo at crownswayracing.com. And speaking of T-Lore, Tony, it's going to help a lot with this new series that's coming in, Series H, or the Holy Bull series, as we are aptly naming it, trying to get it a little bit more in the brains of the partners. But as we enter more into a claiming style level, Tony, that honestly we've had a lot of success in, and knock on wood, we continue to have that success in. As horses go in and out, T-Lore is going to be a fantastic service to use.
Yeah, especially in Kentucky, you're going to claim them. You're going to put them right back in, probably to another claiming race. And the way they're claiming in Kentucky, a lot of these horses will have one race careers with us, and they'll move on to the next one. So that's something that it'll be very valuable to have T-Lore as we add and subtract new horses, and kind of a more faster paced group.
And that's the one thing that we've been talking about, Tony, is when we buy these 2-year-olds out of the sale, obviously it's a very slow development process, and they only run, once every month, and God forbid they get injured or something like that, to where now they're out for 6 months and they come back. One side of the coin is, right, you always know who you have as a horse, and when they get entered, you recognize the name. However, sometimes it just doesn't end up being, one after another. This claiming group, Series H, is going to be very fast paced, as Tony mentioned. In theory, you claim one of them, you throw them right back into the claiming ranks. And sometimes, they do get claimed right there again. That's the way the claiming ranks kind of works. So, and hopefully, we get a good one. He wins another claiming race, doesn't get claimed, and we continue, Trafalgar Shore type way, where we're moving up to allowances, or maybe vote no would be fantastic. That would be obviously the top of the top when it comes to claiming ranks like that. So lots of fast pace, lots more action in this group. But again, that means that horses will be in and out of the stable. So again, if you haven't signed up to T-Lore yet, would highly recommend you get into this new series, which should be very, very fun in this. But speaking of races, Tony, we have one coming up this weekend. It's race number 5 on Saturday at Turfway Park. And to be part of Jeff Ruby Stakes Day, which is the biggest, day out at Turfway Park. Of course, we are not in the premier race. Hopefully we will be, at some point, but we're running on the card, and that's a very, good honor to be running in and testament to how he ran last time. We are race number 5. It runs at 2:43 p.m. Eastern, and that's the one thing I wanted to point out about Turfway this Saturday is it's not being run at late at night like they have been over the past, however long the meet has gone on. These big days do get run during the day. So 2:43 p.m. Eastern is the post time for the Hund as he draws post 6, Tony. I'm going to put up, I always handicap without morning lines. I always forget to put him back on. So he ends up being 8-1 in this spot, coming out of restricted into the open maiden ranks.
Yeah, our fear when we entered him was, the reason we entered back up into the open maiden special weight is we were worried the maiden auction wouldn't fill at the end of the month. And so we decided now was a good time to take the shot against the open company. And if you look at it, I know he's a little slow on buyers, but as far as Briz and Thorough Manager, he's the fastest horse in the field. So anything in the top 3 would be a great finish for us here. And if he can pull the upset, it would make the year for the Hund. I mean, it's $100,000 purse. And I think we're as good as any of the horses in here that have previously run. Now there are a couple expensive first-time starters. I believe it's the 2 for Maker. That's a $600,000 purchase. So obviously, I mean, that's 12 times more than we paid for the Hund.
Yeah.
But actually, no, the Hund was less than 50,000. He was 40,000.
40,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So even more than that. But let's see if we can hold our own with the big boys in here.
And honestly, Tony, he's not that light in terms of horses that have already run. There's a couple 62s somewhere in there. Running a 59 first time out is really not bad. And I thought he did it very, very well. The gray Hund, of course, is the gray here to the inside, the number 10 horse, what you're running at. And we had Second City Saint run that day, Tony. And you and I were talking, we thought Saint had a much better chance than the Hund did. Of course, Hund running first time out, you're never sure what you're going to get. But Victor Carrasco held him very, very good this day. And I'll tell you what, coming to the top of the stretch, Tony, I thought we had a very, very good chance to win this race because, again, masterfully ridden by Carrasco. And, these maiden auction ranks, especially first-time starters, you can see Hund's a little bit green there in the corner, in the front there, trying to switch his leads out. I don't think he ever ended up actually switching leads and just ended up getting run down by the 12 to the outside. And, very barely. It's Turfway is always fun in terms of that the camera's never on the wire. So you never truly know who's in front and who's not coming to the wire. But Tony, you and I were very happy with how we ran that day. And with horses, especially these young 3-year-olds, second time out is probably the biggest chance for them to take a big jump up in buyers. And if he does that, as long as no one else, runs off the screen, the only other horse that I would be worried about in this field, if one of the first time starters doesn't run, it's number 10, Jet Off, Tony. George Weaver's, this horse is 0 for 7, though. He's also very fast out of the gate, too, with a couple others in here. So, in theory, Hunt should get another nice trip just like he got last time.
Yeah, if I was betting the race, I'd be looking to play the Hunt in some sort of a key box with the 2, 10, and 12. The 12 is another runner that's been running and ran a pretty good race last time out. That was second. And the 2 is obviously the expensive first-time starter. So between those, I think those are the main threats to us. But a third choice on the morning line in a double the purse race, I think it's definitely worth taking the shot.
Yeah, and there's a couple others in here, like the one Doug O'Neill, who's right with us. Joel, you have, of course, a big day at Turfway, so all the nice jockeys are going to be in here. Irad rides the 2 that Tony mentioned, another Vacoma filly for Resolute Racings. That's always going to bring the money down with them. But there's others in here like Boss's Deed, who really hasn't run that much faster than us, and they've run 5 races to our 1. Mush Carey for Connor Murphy. And then us, John Ennis's horse is a homebred at 15-1 there. John Ennis doesn't usually run that well first time out. He has 2 of them in here in the 7 and the 8. Sun Chaser from Mike McCarthy brought a lot of horses over. This horse has actually been at Turfway already. but he has a bunch of other ones later in the card, including a horse that I love in the Jeff Ruby in the number 11. So lots of horses in here that, you never know how they're going to come out first time out, but the Hunt fits right in there with them. And if he does end up toppling the tower on the win end, if you bet him to win, you should get a very nice price on him, Tony, which is, as a handicapper, that's something I'm always looking forward to. And I know you are as well.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
I'm sure we'll both be playing in tournaments that day. So
no, I don't know what you're talking about. I would never play a tournament, especially after what happened at the NHC. But like I said, there's a ton of very nice races in here. I didn't prep Tony for this, but I'll give out a couple just because I'm here and might as well give the partners something to root for. The race 10 is the Kentucky Cup Classic. There's 2 graded stakes and 6 stakes total, and I'll get a plug in there. Why not? I do run a show, my show, Betting and Boozing, on the HHH Racing Podcast. We're actually doing this sequence on the show. It actually goes live from when we're recording this in an hour and a half. So if that interests you at all, so search us up on YouTube. It'll come out. It'll come up right away. But race 10 is the Kentucky Cup Classic. The number 7, Endlessly, is a horse that I actually was very fond of back when he won the Jeff Ruby 2 years ago. Hasn't necessarily amounted to anything big since then, but he loves the synthetic. Hasn't been on it since romping in the Jeff Ruby. And those back-to-back 91s are just, basically what every other horse is running in here. Tappet Shoes ran a 92. Willie D's has never run on the synthetic before. Utah Beach is good at 1.5 miles, and this race is 1.1 miles. Anna Marie comes from the Absolute Clouds. So Endlessly at 12-1, I think, is actually a really nice price in here. And I'm going to take a shot with that horse. But in the big race, Jeff Ruby, the same exact connections actually as Endlessly. So I guess I'm just riding the Mike McCarthy train and hoping that I can take it home. Stark Contrast is a horse that has been running out west. Got 1 race off since the Breeders' Cup in the Eddie Logan. Got a really easy trip, but did it very, very well. And is Beyer topped above the rest of the field. If he gets a very similar stalking trip, again, above horses that are going to be favored around him, such as number 5, Black Hornet, who's actually 12-1. That's actually a really nice price for Brendan Walsh and Declan Cannon. But also the number 2, Full Effort, for Brad Cox. And this is a horse that's going to be another one flying from the clouds. But Irad Hobson, this horse is going to take money. I really do like, even though he is the morning line favorite, Stark Contrast should get the jump on a lot of those others. And I'm very interested to see how he runs. Obviously, Mike McCarthy's no stranger to this race, as he won it with Endlessly, as I mentioned 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at this race yet, but just looking at the horse that you just pointed out, I remember him being second to Gestad in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and I thought Gestad was the most impressive winner of the weekend. And he came back to back it up in the first race after the Breeders' Cup, which is a tough one to. Usually they train them up so hard for the Breeders' Cup that I like to bet against horses first off the Breeders' Cup, and he came back and validated that performance. So you got to like him in there.
Yeah, and hopefully the 11 won't, be too much of an issue, considering he wants to be a little more forward. But the 1 1/8, which is what the Jeff Ruby Stakes is at, tons of room up to that first turn. So lots of things to like coming up at Turfway. Of course, it's also Louisiana Derby Day over at Fairgrounds. So huge racing coming up not only after that, but we'll have a Crownsway video newsletter coming up later next week. Of course, as we mentioned at the start of the show, Second City Saint was entered for next Thursday at Turfway, but also it is Florida Derby Day, Arkansas Derby Day. Just this is the time for racing to come alive on the road to the Kentucky Derby. We have a month and a half to that. And Tony, you're going to the Derby again, right? I believe.
I have not committed to the Derby yet. I think I'm definitely planning on going down there for the Oaks.
Okay.
Whether
for the weekend.
Whether I stick around for the Derby or I get out of Louisville before it gets too nuts out there remains to be seen.
Well, if Tony doesn't stick it out, I will definitely be sticking it out. So if any of the partners are going out to the Derby, of course, would love to meet you face to face, and hopefully we can catch some winners, not only then, but also on the road to the Derby. Tony, any wrapping thoughts before we end this edition of the Crownsway Video Newsletter?
No, just kind of, again, congratulating Dan and Terry for their outstanding performances at the NHC. I think maybe we'll have to bring them on the video newsletter to do some sort of Kentucky Derby preview with them for the partners. So maybe that's something we'll try to get put together.
I'll tell you what, if there's anyone to listen to right now, it is the man Dan Piazza, considering the back-to-back final tables is unbelievable feat, not only let alone winning it last year, all the way through from day one, all the way through the final table. But Terry Frank going from, I think he was somewhere in like 100th place, then up to 30th, then up to 2nd, and then ended up finishing in 10th, taking home a good chunk of change. We'll definitely bring them on here at some point. But again, everyone, get subscribed to that T-Lore. It's completely free for all the partners. First name, last name for both username and password. And tune in to Saturday as the Hund runs in race number 5. Again, that is 2:43 Eastern time for the post time. And for my managing partner, Tony Rollo, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, and the March 19th edition of the Crowns Way video newsletter. And good luck to all the partners this week at Turfway.